Welcome to Eureka Math. I'm Mr. Shankel. Today I'll be helping you with Module 1, Lesson 16. Let's get started. Today we learned about the differences between rates and unit rates, and we learned that rates are just ratios that compare two different units, and examples would be something like let me get a color here to work with. 150 miles in 3 hours. That would be a rate. It compares miles to hours, so different units, and it allows us to see how many miles are traveled in 3 hours, or it could be something like maybe $15 for every 30 pounds. Okay, so those are rates. In this case, we're comparing dollars to pounds, so we're comparing two different units, and those would be special ratios that we call rates. We can take those rates and create an even more useful thing called a unit rate, and we learned that a unit rate is a rate that has the number 1 in the denominator. So we're going to learn how to find unit rates in the example today, but an example of a unit rate would be 50 miles in 1 hour. That would be a unit rate because of the 1 in the denominator. And likewise, we could say 50 cents for 1 pound. That would be a unit rate because of the 1 in the denominator. And we have some ways to go about finding unit rates. So let's take a look at the example today. Today's example is Angela enjoys swimming and often swims at a steady pace to burn calories. At this pace, Angela can swim 1,700 meters in 40 minutes. Our job is to find out what Angela's unit rate is. Well, I'm going to start by writing the rate, which is 1,700 meters in 40 minutes. Okay, so I have a rate here, and now I want to change it to a unit rate. Well, my unit rate is just an equivalent ratio. We're just going to find an equivalent ratio where the denominator is 1. So somehow I need to change this 40 into a 1, and hopefully you can see that if we divide by 40, 40 divided by 40 will give us our 1 minute that we're looking for. And then if I divide by 40 on the bottom, I have to divide by 40 on the top. So I would find out what 1,700 divided by 40 is. And 1,700 divided by 40 is 42.5 meters. So we've just found the unit rate for Angela, which is 42.5 meters in 1 minute. The use of unit rates allows us to compare different rates to see which person is driving the fastest, what car gets the best gas mileage, what's the best value when you're buying a grocery item or shopping for clothes, etc. So the unit rate allows us to compare different rates so that we can order them in whatever way that we want. Okay, I could also do the same thing here. Let me get rid of our stuff here. I'm going to erase this off so that we can try this a different way. Instead of writing the rate as meters per minute, I'm going to write the rate as minutes per meter, which you can do. It's a different value that you're going to find, and it might not be as useful to us, but we definitely can use it. Okay, so let's see. If I write my rate this time as 40 minutes compared to 1,700 meters, I then have to again change my denominator to a 1. So I need to change this 1,700 into 1 meter. So I would have to divide by 1,700. And then if I divide by 1,700 on the bottom, I have to divide by 1,700 on the top. And 40 divided by 1,700 will be 0.024 minutes. So what this means is, after 1 minute of swimming, every 1 meter of swimming will take her 0.024 minutes. It's not as useful of a rate, a unit rate, but it can be used to compare how long it takes her to swim 1 minute compared to someone else. To swim 1 meter compared to someone else who's swimming the distance of 1 meter. Not one that we would normally use, but you can find unit rates in any order, depending on what you want to find out. There is one other thing that you could do to find the unit rate, and maybe you've noticed what we're really doing is we're just dividing and kind of doing what the fraction tells us to do. So if we look at the fraction and we start from the top, this fraction says 40. Remember, the fraction bar means divided by. So let me just make a note here. That fraction bar means divided by. So it's 40 divided by 1,700. So we can actually use long division, 40 divided by 1,700, to go ahead and find out what the unit rate is. And that's really all that's happened here when we were talking about equivalent ratios. We just divided by whatever this denominator was so that we could change it into a 1. So there's a couple ways that you could go about finding the answer here and finding the unit rate. One is to use equivalent ratio ideas to change the denominator into a 1. And the other is to just do what the fraction tells you. The fraction says the numerator divided by the denominator. If you follow that, you will find the unit rate. Okay, that's the unit rate and lesson 16. Hope that helps. See you next time.